Hello everybody, this is just a video about how to replant your bonsai tree. This is what I'm going to do for you now. I've done one earlier and that's out in the garden now, getting ready for the summer. It's just the beginning of March tomorrow, so this is the best time to do it. Now the best way to do it is just take off all your little ornaments. There's my little Chinese men. I'll take them from one side for a minute. Now if you look at the way this plant's grown, this is a quite a well established plant actually. I've had this tree, got it on for 30 years now, and I bought it and it was only that big when I first bought it. Now look at it, it's huge. And on the surface you've got all this grass, these dew, moss, anything that tends to grow in a damp area, you'll get that on the surface. So the first thing you want to do is get one of these. This is just a ordinary kitchen fork. Nick that out of the kitchen, don't tell the wife. And I've made it look like a claw. Okay, so you're just going to use that to scrape it off. But later on when you get into the roots you can use something like this. Pretty evil looking instrument. I made that myself. An old file handle, just a bit of bent metal with a sharp point on the end, and you can dig in through the roots. But we'll go into that in a minute. Right, so this bit, you scrape off the all the moss and rubbish you don't want. It's been growing for probably about a year, well over a year now, probably 2 years, and you get all, because these trees are out in the garden, so they will tend to pick up any seeds that the birds drop, anything that grows, and so on. So I'll just do all that for now, and that's how you do it. Just simply scrape it off with a fork. Okay, now if you just wait there for a second, I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so that's done now, and I've just scraped all the stuff off here. You've got all the little bits of moss and stuff in the bottom there. I'll just zoom in a bit so you can actually see what it looks like on the surface. I've only gone down a little way, okay, just to show you what it looks like. You see the roots are starting to show already because there's quite a few roots in there. And we just want to make an area where we've got a very small root ball on root pruning, and then fill it in with what we call akadama, which is the soil I'll be showing you later on. It's like a clay, comes from Japan. It's not that very expensive, you can buy it on eBay. And I'm going to take the tree out of the pot in a minute, and I will show you how to tease the roots out and get the soil out of the base of the tree. Okay, so again, if you just hang on a second, we'll come back in a minute. I'll show you what it's done. Right, there's the pot. I've taken it in the kitchen and give it a good clean out. It's exactly the same pot. By the way, you don't have to change the size of the pot when you replant normal plants. You put it in a bigger pot. You don't need to with bonsai because you're going to cut all the roots off the base, and hopefully put it back in the same pot. Anyway, there's the tree outside. If I show you on the base here, I don't know if you can see those. There are two little pieces of metal sticking through. What they are is just prongs made of wire. You can buy those in a bonsai tree shop or whatever, and all it is just aluminium wire. Now the idea of that is to go through the two holes in the base of the pot, which you probably find, or you will find when you take it out, and they're there to bolt it, literally fix it onto the bottom of the pot. Okay, now if you look here you can see that the actual roots are quite it's quite well rooted there, like you can see in the base. There's the wire sticking out, and what you want to do is tease everything back so as the roots hang freely. You can trim them off and tease away the soil, like I said, with the two little tools. This one here looks like Captain Hook and the handmade fork that you nicked out of the kitchen and don't tell the wife. Now it's a bit of a long process this, so I'm going to pause the video and show you. By the way, this tree is actually a serissa. Now they're renowned for having smelly roots because they sit in damp conditions all the time. They must get damp. Once it dries out it will die. So unlike other trees where you can let them dry just a little bit and keep them topped up with water, but this one must be kept in water all the time, and you see it's doing very well. Another name for it is the tree of 1,000 stars. Now the reason for that is in the summer when you see it, there'll be hundreds of little tiny white flowers all over it, and it's literally like looking at the night sky with stars. There's literally thousands on, well, hundreds in this case. It's not that big. Okay, so if you give me a second, I'll tease all the roots out, I'll take the soil out, and then we can get started on how to actually repot it. Okay, hold on there. Right, you can see the roots coming out there. It's going to, like I say, it's going to take a long time to do this. I'll just sort of show you how I do it. Just tease them out gently, because most of these roots are going to be cut off anyway. There's a little bit of gravel in the bottom there, which used to help the water soak away, so it's not in sour water all the time. And under here we've got this little bit of gauze mesh. It's like a nylon mesh that you put on over the holes in the bottom of the pot. You can see the two little marks where the holes were, and keep that bit, clean it off, and you can reuse that, because that will allow the water to drain out without losing the little stones in the bottom. And just carry on doing this. Yeah, like I say, when the actual tree's in flower, there are literally hundreds of little tiny white buds, little flowers, and you know, it's nice to see it. And the other thing about this particular tree is you can prune at any time of year. It doesn't really matter how often you do it. This one needs a bit of a prune. As you can see, the leaves are quite big, and there's lots of little shoots growing on there. They will eventually show flowers, but when I've done the root prune, I'm going to go to the top and prune all the leaves off that we don't want, and get a nice shape to it. And that's another thing about shape as well. When people get the bonsai tree, they think they're going to put wire all over it and end up with some really weird shaped things. This one, you see, I've gone a bit mad reshaping it. It was only about 2 or 3 inches high when I bought it. It was only about that big. And now look at it, big stump there, and it's done very well. Very pleased with it. Right, I'll just carry on doing this, and we'll come back in again. Pause. We'll come back in a minute when it's done, and then we'll take it from there. Don't go away. Here we are, back again, and I've teased most of the soil out. You can see the big heap of it there. That's the old akadama that I used before, the old clay, and you can see all the roots there, and it's growing quite well. So what I'm going to do is just an ordinary pair of kitchen scissors, you know, again, nick from the kitchen, don't tell the wife, and just chop off all the roots that you don't want. You can be quite aggressive with this because they do grow very well, and it's mainly the short, spindly little ones that you want to cut off. And once you've done that, then it allows more growth to come through as we go through the seasons. Like I say, it's beginning of March now here in the UK, because I live in England, and we've had pretty mild summer this year, so hopefully we'll have the same through the year. Anyway, there we go. Just cut these long bits off here, and allow more room for growth, because now I've got rid of the soil, we can put the new soil in there, and that will be nutrient free, hopefully. Should be, because akadama is a place in Japan, that sounds a bit posh, doesn't it? In Japan, and it's the soil where they seem to grow very well. I don't know the history behind it. I'm sure someone will tell me about all of that, but you can see where it's shaped the pot, look, where it's gone square. Okay, so you just cut all these off, what you don't want, and when we've done that, give it a good old root prune. I'll just cut that bit off there, and give it more room to grow. There's the wire, and actually I'll take that off because we can reuse that. There's the wire, look, take it off, yeah, that holds into the base of the pot through the holes in the bottom, and I'll just do a little bit more of that. It might take a time to have a good look at it and see what we're doing, but I'll come back in a minute and I'll show you what it looks like, because basically what we want is a root ball. Okay, just a root ball, that's all. We don't need all of this around here, that's all got to come off. And I'll use this tool, by the way, to sort of go down through between the roots and knock the soil out to make the roots more exposed. Then they're easier to to trim. You can see the soil falling off the bottom there, look. Just poke it through, no big deal. You'd be quite aggressive with this. Just make sure you don't, try not to damage the roots too much. You shouldn't damage any of the bigger roots because you can miss those. See, I've hit a few there, look, which is a bit unfortunate, but I'm sure it will cope. And because these are quite prolific plants, you know, you can buy them from most garden centres. They're pretty cheap. Pick one up for £4 or £5, and that's English money, by the way. And then in a few years' time, like this one, it will get nice and big. But look, one little tip here: if you want to make it grow bigger and get a nice thick trunk, I actually took it to my mother's place and said to her, just water it, don't touch it, don't cut it, don't prune it, don't do anything. I'll tell you what, it came out, and the actual tree was grown all over the place. It was hopelessly overgrown. So I trimmed it back, but the actual main big branches here grew much thicker because they were feeding the plants and they had something to grow with. They were using the nutrients and that to get up there and build the trunks, or in this case 2 trunks, because you've got a little one growing at the side there, which is a bonus. I thought we'd leave him growing there on the small side in contrast to the main tree. But a couple of years without treatment, just water it, leave it, let it grow and grow and grow, feed it as and when there's back, it will be brilliant. Okay, well I'll just trim all those roots off like I said, and we'll go back to it in a minute. Okay, stay there. Okay, so there we go. I've not done a great deal of root pruning on it, but if you look at the size of the tree compared with the pot now, you can see there's much more room for soil. I might take a few more roots off in a minute, but there's much more room in there for the other roots to grow, which gives them plenty of time to get settled in. I'll just cut a few more of those off while you're here. This is one of the little tools I use. You can buy them in a bonsai shop. Pretty good for taking the larger roots out, and just snip them off like that. Oh, it went on the floor, never mind, leave it later. And this big one here, I'll take that one out as well. And that one there. And that'll give you even more room for them to shorten that one a bit, to spread out. And what I use for the smaller roots is one of these. I expect you've seen them in garden centres. You can pick them up with some bonsai feed or whatever. They usually give you a free pair when you buy them, and they're pretty good for cutting the smaller stuff as well. So there you go. Looks a bit aggressive, doesn't it? And a poor little plant, you think it's going to die, but it won't. You're actually doing it some good. So there's a tree, and that's what I've taken out of it. It's quite a lot. So hopefully in a minute we'll show you how to, I'll just have a quick clean up and put everything back together again, get the soil out. I'll show you what that is, how to do it, how to get the wire in, and the mesh that we took out earlier, and show you to repot it. And it seems like a daunting task, you know, to actually pull the tree out of the pot, muck around with the roots, chop them all off and then put it back in again. But that's what bonsai is all about. It's keeping a small root ball and a large tree. Bonsai actually means tree pot, because you don't put, you know, you grow trees in a pot. It's a bit unusual, and normally plants. But anyway, you want a tree. There's a tree, and there's the pot, and that's bonsai. Okay, I'll be back in a minute and show you how to start to turn it all around and get it back in the pot and look really nice. Alright, here we are again, and there's the base of the root ball. As you can see, it's a lot smaller than the pot now. So let's think about putting it back in the pot. Alright, now then, as I said, we've got the pot with 2 holes in the base, and the piece of wire that we used before, this piece here, you can reuse that again, because like I said, it's only aluminium, copper coated aluminium, what you can buy in the bonsai shop. Now, this has been in there for probably 2 years or more, so it's still usable. Oh no, it's not, it's broken. Oh well, we'll have to use some new stuff. Now then, this new stuff is very thin. This is mainly for making the tree shape that you want. Now I'm going to cut a long piece of this off, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that. Alright, I have 2 of those, 2 lengths of long wire, and cut that one off. Two lengths, approximately the same length. It didn't have to be. Don't cut them too short because you'll have a problem with that. There they are. You'll see why in a minute. And the first thing to do is get your gauze. You took out the bottom of the pot earlier. You can see the two little marks where the holes were, and put that back in the pot over the actual holes in the base of the pot. Okay, and then the old trusty gravel. This is the stuff I use in the fish tank. You can probably hear it bubbling away in the background. That's what it is, an 8-foot fish tank full of all sorts of little fish, and just enough to cover the base. Not too much because you need more room for soil and roots to grow. Just enough to lift the soil above the base and let it drain away. Right, now comes the tricky bit. Put the tree back in the pot like that. Okay, there you go, it's sat in the pot. A little bit of gravel there, and you get your 2 bits of wire. Now, because it's got such a small root ball, you need to support the tree. Okay, and the way you do that is with the wire. Now you can do this 2 ways really. You can either push it through the roots and try and find the hole underneath, or you can wrap it around the root ball and do it that way. Now, because I've got a little bit of soil still left in that one, I'll just push that through there so it sticks out the bottom. Because it's thin wire, it's a bit awkward to work with. Yeah, there you go. It's like threading a needle really. And reasonably, put it around a big root. I mean, that's quite a large root there. So I'll just push that through there, and then it will come down and hold that root tight. Now then you've got to push another one through the other side, because this is quite a large tree. Well, I think it's large compared with the others. It's not the biggest one I've got. I've got some really big ones out in the garden, but I just make sure that the other tree I've done this morning earlier was much smaller than this, so I only put one wire in there to hold it down. Oh, it's a bit awkward this because the wire is bending. So you want the really thick stuff, but I've run out of that, so I'm going to do it with this year. And see how we get on with that. It should be okay. Can't see it complaining. Right, there we go. Pull the wire through. Okay, and just pull it down tight like that. And have the 2 bits dangling out at the bottom. There's the other 2. Now then, we've got to find a hole in the base. So just move a little bit of gravel around until you can see the hole. A bit awkward to show you this really, but there it is. There's the 2 holes in the base. Okay, and then feed the wire through the hole in the bottom of the pot. Like I said, this is the difficult bit, getting it fed through. There's 1, 2, I've got 4 going in there, and oh dear, it's not gone through. Bear with me a second, I'll just do this while we're on camera. Get it all nice and straight. There, here we go. Right, now on the bottom, just put them through tight, all 4 ends, and just leave those at the bottom for the minute. Okay, there, see them sticking out the base there, look. Okay, and we'll leave that for now. Right, that will keep the tree solid in the pot. Okay, now if you want to manoeuvre it around, if you want the tree on one side of the pot to contrast your ornaments, now's the time to do it. I like my little Chinese men, there they are, smoking their pipes, about there, and they look as if they're sitting under the tree in the garden. Or you can have them over there, wherever you like. It's up to you. That is your choice. But you put the tree where you want it in the pot, so it actually grows that way. Oh, there's another bit of root sticking up. Any little roots that are sticking up and you think are going to poke through the soil, just push them down out the way. I'll just get some more soil. Now this is the akadama. This is the clay. When you get it, it'll be bone dry, and I do mean bone dry. There's no moisture in it at all. It's got a lot of powder with it, and it's quite hard substance. So we'll just pour all that in there, and make sure you get it in around the roots as well. You don't want any voids in there at all. So make sure you tease the root tease the roots around in there, and then they will find their own place later on when it starts to grow in the new year. And right, just do a bit more. So it's all really teasing it through the roots and getting it down into the base underneath the actual tree. So you can sort of lift it up a little bit and pour some in underneath, but try and keep it as level as you can. I know we don't, in nature nothing is absolutely level. There's no such thing as a straight line in nature, we all know that. So if the tree's a little bit wobbly one side, I wouldn't worry about that too much, because it adds to the character. I mean, bonsai is all about funny shaped trees, and I'm sure you've seen some really weird ones in shops, and I've grown some really weird ones in the old days. And all I wanted to do was bend the branches, and they all come out all bent and twisted, and they absolutely look awful. The idea is to get it as sort of natural as you possibly can, and with the confines of the actual size of the tree in relation to the bends and the twists in the actual branches. So that's something you want to be a little bit easier about. Now, something else I want to show you is this. I think in America they call it a Lazy Susan. It's really a cake stand, and you just turn it. I mean, this one's all covered in gunk and dirt and that, because I use it for my trees. Now, it's a good idea to get one of those. Put it in the tray, and then you can turn the tree and get everything evenly spaced as you go along. I know it seems silly doing it on a square pot, but most of them are. And just keep pushing it around. Now then, what we want to try and do is build it up a little bit, just a little bit higher, so it's level with the base of the pot here, but it actually grows up in a mound. Yeah? So that will help the tree look much better than just stuck in the ground and just growing, you know, like it does in your garden. Because the actual pot is part of the display, if you like, of your actual bonsai tree. Like I said, bonsai is tree and pot, as they say in Japan. Never been there myself, love to go. I'm sure if you want to give me some money I can afford the air ticket, but I don't think that's going to happen somehow. I'm sure we'll all have to go there. But there you go. Now then, I'll just tease that in, and I'll come back in a second and I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished off. Okay, don't go away. Here we go again. Okay, so there you go. All the soil's in place, and if I turn it around, you can see it's fairly even all the way around. And I like to leave little bits in the corner. Another advantage with a square pot is you've got the little corners there where you can push it down, and then the water drains away much easier. You can see the two in the background there, look, just depressed in, and the other two in the other corners. I haven't done this too high here at the moment. It's still bone dry, as you can see, and when you put the water in there you'll see the powder come up, and it will soak up quite a lot of water when it's done. One thing I will say, and I'll probably say it again as well, when you've done this and you've actually repotted your bonsai, do not feed it for at least 2 weeks, because it needs to establish, and the roots need to repair themselves from all the cutting, because we've cut quite a bit off of it, and then it should settle in quite nice. And then just give it a light feed once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that, and it should survive quite well. In a minute I'm going to show you how to do the top, how to actually prune the top, which is a very simple matter. This one needs doing badly, I haven't done it for a long time, so we'll have a look at that in a minute. Okay, stay there. Right, before we go into the top trimming, I'll just show you how I'm going to anchor the tree to the actual pot. These are just sticks. You can buy these in any garden centre. They're just I don't know why they're green. They made them green, but it's just like little bamboo sticks. You stick them in your pot plant and do it. But with the 2 bits of wire that are sticking out the bottom, alright, if I show you, it's quite easy really. Just cut another bit off. With the wire that comes out the bottom is like that. Okay. Now this is important. If that comes out the hole at the base of your pot, what you want to do is not wind them together like that, because you'll actually pull and you won't get the pull on it. So what you need to do is put your stick between the 2 little bits of wire and wind it round with the stick like that. So effectively it'll look like that. So you're winding the wire around and pulling the stick up to the base of the pot, which will get a better grip on the tree itself. Okay, can you see that? So it's almost like wind it round like that. Don't know if it's in focus actually. Wind it round, put the stick on the top, and then continue to wind it round like that, and that will pull the wire down, as you can see there, until it actually grips. But you just want to pull down on the roots to keep it nice and stable. Alright. If you try and do it the other way, all you're doing is winding it up into the base of the pot, and that's no good at all really, because it's not pulling on anything, and you need to pull on a stick underneath the hole in the bottom of the pot. Just sort of mention that because I'm not using the thicker wire, which is much easier. You just pull it through and just bend it round, or bend it. I mean, this is a couple of years old. It's been in there for years, and just bend it over like that, and then it will stay there for as long as you want it. Right. I think now what we'll do is actually water it, and then we'll go on to the trimming on the top. I'll just show you what it looks like when you're watering it. So I'm just going to get the water and we'll give it a good feed, eh? No, sorry, don't feed it. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then you can feed it. I'll just give it a good watering now to show you what it's like. Okay. Right, here we go. I'm going to pour the water on now, and you can probably see the powder just coming up. It looks like steam. It looks like a chemical reaction. I don't know if you can see it there, but it is actually powder coming to the surface. There we are, you can see more of it now. Okay, as you water it in. And it will take quite a lot of water, like I said, because it's bone dry when you get it. And the reason for that is, I assume, they don't want the damp getting in there to produce bacteria and all the rest of the nasty stuff that seems to grow in water when you don't want it to. And it might be a sterilising effect as well, bringing the stuff into our country, which is very thoughtful of them. But that's another story. And make sure it is really soaked at this point. I'm using rainwater here. You don't need anything in it at all. I prefer rainwater to tap water, because in the UK we've got you got chlorine and stuff like that in there, which is not really good for bare roots. And rainwater is pure, as you know, and it's not going to do any harm at all, and just gets it nice and moist. Okay. Right, there it is, soaking up the water. I've put about 2 litres through it, and drained out in the bottom of the tray here, and just topped it up with another litre later on. Oh, I did that earlier. And right, let's get her on the old cake spinner, or the Lazy Susan, and see what we can do to the top, and see if we can prune that. Right, here's the top of the plant, and you can see the growth there, the new growth, the leaves, and the little black piece under, oh sorry, brown piece underneath. What I do is just nip it off there. There's more for it to grow, and just leave a leaf on there if you want it to grow a bit thicker, and just slip it through each little leaf in turn. It's very time consuming, but well worth it. And there's a bit you take off the top. Okay, now that's where your flowers will come out, and that does really look beautiful when it's in growth. Now it's a lot to do, hell of a lot to do. As you can see, there's plenty of leaves on there, and it's going to look a little bit bare to start with. We've done the roots, root pruned it, and now we're going to trim the top. Okay, and I'll come back in a second and show you what it looks like when it's done. Right, there it is. It's had its hair cut. cut all the bits off and trimmed it right the way down. I know it looks like a twig at the moment, but it will grow back. I've left a few little leaves on there. As you can see from there, these leaves will take the light and help it to grow. There's a little tree growing on the side of it, and all we need to do now is put a little Chinese men back on there so they can smoke their pipes in the garden and make a little dent for them. There they go. And there it is. Hope you like it. And thanks very much for watching. I do appreciate you staying to the end. And there it is. Zoom in a little bit, and that's what it looks like. Okay, thanks very much for watching. If you want to subscribe, please do, because I'm going to do lots of various different videos. I do just about anything really, anything that I think is going to help people. And I thought while I was doing my little tree, I would show you how it's done. I'm not going to do this one now for a couple of years, and he's quite happy there. And it's an indoor plant, this one, a serissa. It's actually an indoor plant in England, because the weather outside in the winter can be very, very cold. So it'll probably kill it off, but in the winter bring it in, but in the summer by all means take it outside and let it have some nice sunshine and so on. And most of the other ones I've got Chinese elms, acers, things like that, and they all get the same treatment and they seem to thrive. I've got one tree out there which I know for a fact is about 70 years old. I bought it when it was 50 years old and I've had it for 20 years, so work it out for yourself. But there you go. And like I say, thanks for watching and cheers. Hope for a lovely summer, and see you all again soon with another video. I don't know what it's going to be, but there'll be something soon. Okay, thanks for subscribing and watching. Take care, see you soon. Bye bye.